after that radio report stating that, we're shooting at the tanks when we weren't. It was hopelessness. Wow, it was like everything. It was like taking the wind out of you. I just knew we were dead and we weren't going to make it. And I was just, I don't know, I was kind of devastated, man, after that. It was just more gas. What would happen at that point, the tanks would come into the holes they'd already made and they would spray the gas in through a boom. And every time they do that, people would back away from the tanks. There was one period late in the morning where I actually thought they were going to come in. And I remember there were amplifiers. Someone had made amplifiers on either side, made it like a protective place. And I went into, I was protected by amplifiers. But then the tanks continued to come in further into the hole. And I just knew that wasn't going to work. Just the amplifier was going to fall on me. So it's like, where do you go? What do you do? I'm up on the stage, and it was later, it was around noonish, and someone yelled from the upstairs, "There's a fire!" And it was faint because it was from the upstairs corner. And I said, I didn't expect a fire. I'm like, "There's a fire." I kept thinking, I got to get to Serenity. I remember that I couldn't get down the hallway because the debris was crazy. There was no way to get down the hallway to the cafeteria area. But I remembered, there was a stairwell. Was it a stairwell? Yeah, it was a stairwell that led upstairs to the room in the back of the chapel, between the chapel and the gymnasium. And David Koresh's room was there as well. And through David Koresh's room, there was a causeway that led over the, what do they call it, the rafters of the church, of the chapel area. So I took that, I went up the stairs, I took that to where the hallway was, that second story hallway, and I figured maybe I could get to the second story and get down to where the concrete structure was in the cafeteria area. And again, there was the building hadn't been completed, so there was another blanket over that doorway. And when I got to that front, which led to the second story hallway, I opened the blanket, and I just remember this amazing ball of flame shoot down the hallway in front of me. And I had to back away because the heat was pretty intense. It just shot down, catching everything on fire in front of me. So I put, excuse me, I put the blanket back, and I backed the way I came. I knew that I couldn't get into that hallway. I would have burned to death. So, okay, in my head, access is totally cut off to the cafeteria. I cannot get there. So I came back downstairs, and when I got back downstairs, everyone was in the hallway between the chapel and the gymnasium. There was a little room, and there was a hole in the wall made by one of the tanks. And I remember there was a bunch of us. Like, there was Derek Lovelock, there was Brother Friesen, Raymond Friesen, Wade Martin Jr., myself, Clive Doyle. We were just all in this little area. And I remember this is something that Raymond was he goes, I'm going out of this hole. I go, they'll probably shoot you, because I thought they were going to shoot me if I went out of the hole. So Raymond, he's an old guy too. Raymond was 70s, probably 70s. He didn't go out of the hole, and it's because I said that. I wish I wouldn't have said that. Anyway, so smoke starts coming in. And I remember looking at Wayne. I looked at Wayne, and the smoke was surrounding Wayne Martin, Sr., and he was leaning against the wall, standing up, and he took his gas mask off. And as he did that, smoke engulfed him, and I just saw a faint image of his body slide down the wall. Like, he slid down the wall into a sitting position and then went forward like this, and then the smoke just engulfed him. And I said, when that happened, the wall caught fire, and I could hear my hair singeing from it burning. And I just said, I looked out and I saw Derek Lovelock go out the window. I saw Jaime Castillo go out the window, and I ran toward the window. And I remember stepping out of the window thinking, no one can make it out behind me. And I turned around, and I saw Clive come out, and he was patting his arms out. His arms had caught fire. And, I started walking up. Well, we started walking up the the road. We were on the side of the building where the cameras could still see us from a couple miles away. And the speaker systems were saying, go to the Red Cross sign at the end of the property. Come out with your hands up. If you fire at us, we'll fire back. Come up to the Red Cross sign. So we did. I turned back around to see Clive come out. Raymond Friesen didn't make it out. I don't really know why, because he was at the front of that. He should have come out before any of them. I stepped out because I didn't want to burn to death. I thought I was going to burn to death for sure, and I just figured being shot would be better. But we weren't shot, and so we went up we went up the road, got about halfway up, and I turned around to see this huge, massive explosion, that big famous explosion that you see, and I could feel the heat from that was really intense. And it was just like, for that instant, it was so hot when that thing went up. And I was about halfway up the road. So, I went the rest of the way. And I got to where the tanks were. And there were 2 FBI agents. And they had us put us down on our faces. And they wrapped my hands around my back. And they put those plastic straps on them. And so, I was there like that. And the one guy had a AR-15. The other guy had a notepad. And he says, where are the kids? You got to live with this for the rest of your life. Where are the women and children? And I said, they should be in the underground bus. I didn't know that they didn't get to the underground bus at this point because I couldn't get there. I said, all about the underground bus. That's where the kids should be. And he looked at the other guy. The other guy looked down at him and said, well, we tear gas that bus. And I just looked at him like, you idiots, is what I was thinking. And then the one guy said to the other guy, he said, you think they set the fire? The one guy said to him, do you think they set the fire? And he goes, you're damn right to set the fire. There wasn't one goddamn pyrotechnic in that building. So that was very telling to me. At the time, I didn't realize that there were pyrotechnic devices. I didn't realize that 8 years later, 9 years later, whatever it was, the FBI would say, yes, we use pyrotechnic devices. But that agent did not realize there were pyrotechnic devices used in that building. So it was clear to me later on in life, if you will, that certain agents did not know what was really going on there. He did not know. He was convinced there was no pyrotechnic devices used in that building. And then the last thing he said was, I knew this wasn't going to work. I knew we should have gone with plan A. So plan A, I guess, would have been a full frontal assault where they just came in and shot people with guns and that's it, I think that was plan A. But when he said that, I was just like, ooh, plan A, huh? Nice. It was just a very intense thing for him to have said in my presence. Then they put us in the tanks and they drove us to the checkpoint. And on the way there, they said, we're going to hand you over to the ATF. I go, you're going to hand me over to the ATF? Are you crazy? Don't be handing me over to the ATF. But they did. The ATF took off all my clothes and videotaped my naked body, which was fun. That was a blast. And, they just videotaped my naked body and they gave me orange jumpsuit to wear, and then they took me to the next checkpoint. And after that checkpoint, they took me I guess it was a bus. I can't really remember. But they took me to McLennan County Sheriff's Department, I think. Yeah, the jail. The CS gas is a gas that's not to be used ever indoors. It's a riot control agent to be used outdoors only, according to the manufacturer's own instructional manual. We're not supposed to use CS gas in the time of war under the Geneva Convention. We can't. It's so harmful. You can't use it against a foreign power. But there's no law saying we can't use it against our own people, which is really barbaric. CS gas is something that, especially if you have small lungs, like a little kid or women or older people, it can kill you. You can really choke to death on CS gas. They used an amazing amount of CS gas. Like I said, a 2-day supply in 6 hours. The tanks went all the way in through the building to the concrete structure where the kids were, and they put such an amount of CS gas in there, it choked and anesthetized some of the kids to death. The turret must have hit a concrete structure because slabs of concrete fell in on the kids, crushing some of them, and some of them died of blunt force trauma. When the coroner's report came out, the FBI said that night at a press conference, and again, no way to counter it, they said, our report will show that the Davidians, in the final moments of the conflagration, beat and stabbed their children to death. That's what they said. And I was shocked. I was mad. There's no, I mean, I called Pirwani the next day, and I said, "That's not what you told me your report was." He goes, "The FBI took our report and used their own words. We never said that. We said the kids died of blunt force trauma. The FBI said they were beaten to death." And I'm like, "Well, that is just, that's, you know, there's no way you can't counter that." They did that so people wouldn't be upset with the government. They continued to put blame on the people inside there all the way through it to this day, still putting all the blame on the people inside there. Not talking about gassing children to death. They killed all those kids with the CS gas. Some of them had such a high concentration of CS in their blood level that when the place started to burn, it caused a cyanide poisoning, and some of the children's bodies were bowed backwards from the muscles contracting from cyanide poisoning. That's what happens when CS gas burns off. Also, they say the CS gas isn't flammable, but it's a powder, just like any grain silo. A powder, if you introduce flame, can go off like a ball, like a fireball. So if you introduce flame, it is flammable. What's really flammable is the methylene chloride, which is the propellant system. So the methylene chloride is the chemical that propels the CS gas throughout the building. Methylene chloride is the same thing that you use in paint thinner. So these are compounds that are volatile and they are flammable. And then when you introduce a pyrotechnic device, and 4 pyrotechnic rounds were found, they're different from the ferro rounds, that literally could cause a spark very easily and set a fire. I mean, they're known for causing fires.
Special Counsel John C. Danforth, his report said that the pyrotechnic rounds, ferret rounds, were fired into the tunnel at 6 a.m. in the morning. And therefore, the Danforth report says that there was no way that those particular pyrotechnic rounds would have caused the fire that started at 12:07. So I just wanted to put that in there so we'll know what the Danforth report says. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. Let's add something to that. The Danforth, I don't care what the Danforth report said. They said for 7 or 8 years that there were no pyrotechnic devices used in the building. No pyrotechnic devices were used in the building. The FBI did not shoot at the Davidians during the entire 51-day siege, and no pyrotechnic rounds were used in the building. No pyrotechnic rounds were used in the building. I wish I could say that over and over again for 8 years, and then maybe you'd get the idea of what I'm trying to say. They said no pyrotechnic rounds were used in the building, and then all of a sudden 4 pyrotechnic rounds show up. I don't care what the Danforth report says. We know how government reports will lie to protect them. 4 pyrotechnic devices were found in the building near the origins of the fire. I am sorry. I didn't lie about it. They did. So they lost their credibility a long time ago. They lost their credibility in the very early stages of this raid, and then 51 days later, lying to the American public over and over and over and over and over again. These people do not have any credibility. 4 pyrotechnic devices were found in the fire. They claimed for years no pyrotechnic devices were used. They lied. End of story. And one more thing, incidentally. The only people that benefited from that building burning were the FBI and the ATF, because there were so many lists of, there was so much evidence of the ATF crimes in that building, including all the fire, all the bullet holes from the ceiling, from the roof, from the helicopter shooting into the building. The FBI and the ATF benefited by that place burning to the ground. Period. End of story.